Okay, guys, it's bang on 8 o'clock. We'll get cracking. So, first thing, good evening, Jamie. Welcome to the podcast.
Good evening. How you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm very well. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad. Just taking in all that Boris has just said. So
Uh,
yeah.
any particular highlights or lowlights in there for you?
Nothing really. I mean, I think with all the stuff that's in the press at the minute, you kind of get a flavour of what's going to get announced before it gets announced. You kind of already know what's going to happen. I think the thing that kind of hit home when he set out the kind of the 2 month piece, and you think, oh, does that basically mean it's pretty much another 2 months worth of lockdown? Is kind of the negative I took from it. But obviously, there are some small positives in there, I suppose, and I guess they'll keep reviewing that over that next 2 months. And you never know. Things could accelerate quicker. They could slow down quicker. But for me, I think we're better off the way we are at the minute until those numbers get right down to the bottom. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, cool. So, Jamie, you've been a member now at the Academy for pretty much bang on 4 years, isn't it? Just
Pretty
over
much.
now.
Yeah, I think it was sort of July. Oh, it always sticks in my head as being July the 4th, being Independence Day. That was the thing. That was one of the first sessions I did was on July the 4th, or it was either the welcome meeting or something was specific on that July the 4th. I remember that. So
had you not started a little bit earlier? Because didn't you do Born Survivor that year, 2016?
Yeah, I think it was.
And that would have been around about the second weekend in May, and you'd been coming for a number of weeks. So I think you must have started in April of 2016.
Yeah, possibly. There's just something. Maybe there's something. Maybe the July was sort of the 8
You just like American stuff, don't you? That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what I go off. So yeah.
The proximity to the nearest American holiday.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So obviously that's how long I've known you, and most Academy members will have known you. But there was 35-ish years of Jamie prior to that. Give us a potted summary of Jamie from New Year's Day 1981 through to whenever it was in 2016 that we met.
Okay, that could take a while. I mean, I'll skip through most of the school years. They were pretty uneventful, to be honest. I think the thing for me, probably to keep this to a kind of a health and fitness perspective, when I started work. So I work in the IT industry. I've worked in the IT industry now for 23 years, something like that. I've been at the same company now for about 18 years. And it's been a great career. I finished school and I went to work at Macclesfield Hospital in the IT department. So I worked there for a year or two. Then I went to a reseller, as they're known, and a reseller would then resell IT services to the likes of the hospital and kind of other places like that. And I'd say that's where the health would actually probably start to deteriorate. So I was a junior consultant at that point. So I was driving up and down the country. I'd pack my bag on a Sunday night and I wouldn't be home till late on a Friday at best. And during that time, while I was away, eating, probably drinking a bit too much if there was a few of us on site. That kind of happened quite a lot. But yeah, diet wise, it was awful. But at the time, I was fairly young. Obviously, I was sort of 18, 19, something like that. Exercise was just not in my thing. I just didn't do any of it whatsoever. So there was a lot of eating that went on, really bad sort of stuff. And then kind of moving, as kind of my career progressed, I moved to the company that I'm with now. Career accelerated, started to earn more money, but actually I was doing more time away from home again. And again, it was, I think, probably one of the low points. I do remember sitting in a hotel room with a KFC bargain bucket to myself, which was probably enough to kind of feed a family of four. But to me, that was like, well, I'm away from home. That's what I'm going to eat. And at the time, I didn't really see the kind of the weight piling on. Probably roll around to sort of, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, something like that, when, well, something like that, it was when Maisie was born. Just before that, sort of, me and Jenny had bought our first house. And I think most people go through that thing where you buy your first house, it's all very new, it's all very exciting. And then you quickly realise that you can't actually cook for yourself. Takeaways became the norm. Brown Street Chippy was a regular. The chicken fried rice with gravy, which sounds really disgusting, but it's actually really nice. Not anymore, obviously, but So yeah, that was a regular thing for us, and I mean regular. So we'd probably, maybe 3-4 times a week, something like that. We'd have some form of takeout, but then even when we did cook something, it was never great anyway. So yeah, the weight just kind of piled on and on and on. Maisie was born, and again, you kind of roll on to that next thing. Oh, we've just had a newborn. It's difficult. Let's just get a takeaway. Let's just do this, that, and the other. And again, the weight just kind of goes and goes and goes to the point where I think at my worst, I was probably pushing nearly 20 stone. I think at one point, was probably the peak that I got to. I mean, during that time, I had tried to do things. So I'd tried different diets, all the latest fad diets. I mean, this is much similar to kind of what Lee was saying on his podcast. I think I pretty much ticked all the ones that he did. So whether it was the Atkins diet, the celebrity shakes, fasting, all of the ones that you see. And I think for me, my problem always was I'd do something and I'd set myself a bit of a goal or a bit of a target to do it. And once I'd hit that goal or target, that would be it then. I wouldn't reset the goal and go, okay, well, I've done that now. Let's go again and try and get a better result from it. I'd always get to the point of going, well, I hit that goal. Let's move on to the next thing. If I think about some of the exercising that I used to do, so there's a couple of mates that used to go running quite a lot. And there's a field that's just near my house. And one of the goals I set myself was I want to be able to run one lap around the field. Now, the field is it's Congleton Field. So there's probably like 4 football pitches in size on there. So for me, doing one length of that at the time was hard enough. But I got to the point where I'd go most nights and, every week I'd go around. And eventually I got to the point where I did one complete lap. I never ran that field again once I did it. And that was it. It was done. It was like, well, I've done that now. Instead of thinking, well, do 1.5 or, try and push for 2. No, I'd done it. So, and that was a common thing for me. I'd buy that. I'm always wasting money on pointless gadgets and things like that. So I bought a bike and I thought, okay, I'll do a bike and I'll get to a certain distance. And the next minute, the bike's sat in the garage gathering dust. And that was just a common thing. But all the while, I mean, you talk about it a lot. All the while things were just getting worse and worse. I was making no improvements, and if anything, I was stopping and then getting far worse and worse. And I guess really, I couldn't see any way back from that. Before joining the academy, I had made some real sort of conscious efforts around what I was eating. I was using MyFitnessPal before I kind of started, probably not as religiously as what I have done since, but I was being a lot more conscious, and I had actually started to lose quite a bit of weight before joining the academy, but I'd got to that same thing. Okay, I'd hit that, let's plateau, and I just kind of bumbled along. And then Facebook started lighting up with the academy. I'm not quite sure why. Don't know. It's all that money you probably spend on marketing, I suppose. But,
well, yeah, I recently shared with Jamie and Lee. I found the Facebook Ads Manager app is updated, so it now shows you the first thing right at the top your total ad spend, so how much we've spent on ads. And over the years, it's obviously added up to quite a lot, and that's absolutely fine because it's been worthwhile. I can see the return on investment, the number of members we've got, and therefore the number of lives that have changed. And it was a fair whack, but that was double whammied by the fact that I realised that I have got a couple of different accounts on there. There's only one that we currently use, but there was the same again on a different account. So it was a substantial investment, but it worked. We got you at the very least out of it.
Yeah, well worth it. And I think I was kind of coming up to that point of starting to see some of those adverts. There were some changes, within the family, in terms of health and things like that, which made me actually really start to focus that I actually needed to start taking a bit more care of myself, so that I can do the things that I kind of want to do. So that kind of gave me another spur to kind of need to really think about something to kind of get a grip on this and do something about it. So yeah, the adverts kept popping up, the emails kept popping up. I'm not sure how long I probably looked at them. It probably wasn't as long. I think Lee said he did a couple of years where he was back into and stuff like that. For me, it was probably a couple of months worth of just reading some of the blogs, just wanting to know a little bit more about it, particularly the £20 challenge. Again, that mindset that I've got, I was looking at it going, well, £20 challenge, I could lose £20, that'll do. But subconsciously, I was obviously thinking, well, I'll do the £20 and then that's £20 done. I can move on to something else then. So yeah, that's when those ads, you know, sort of got a grip of me at that point.
So, I mean, you kind of half answered this already, but the various approaches and things that you tried over the years. Firstly, actually, before we get into perhaps why they didn't work for you long term, was there any sort of pattern in those that did and didn't work short term? Were there some that you didn't get anywhere with, some that you had an amount of success and then it went backwards?
Yeah, I'd say the Atkins one, you know, which is just pretty much cutting out carbs completely, and focusing on kind of a pure sort of protein diet. Again, I think Lee mentioned it as well, where you're having sort of a full English for breakfast and stuff like that. It sounds amazing, bacon for breakfast every morning. Who doesn't want that? But actually, a week or two of doing that, it's not sustainable at all. Yes, that did work. It definitely did work. I probably lost, I don't know, maybe half a stone, something like that, over a period of time. And yeah, it was working, but from the way that I felt, it was awful. You know, the first couple of weeks of doing something like that, it's just not natural at all for the body to kind of cope with that. You know, zero carbs, you're just left exhausted. The worst one I did was the celebrity shake one. It wasn't the celebrity shake one. It was a similar sort of thing where you'd have a shake based on water as well, which was just awful. And I convinced myself again that actually this was the right thing for me, because I was out on site still at the time. You know, I could have a load of shakes in the car ready to go. I could take one in the morning, do my day's work, head back to the hotel, have another one, and do it that way. But no, it didn't work at all. And I think I managed maybe 2 days of something like that. And because I just couldn't concentrate or work properly. I was that hungry. I was focusing more on the fact I was hungry than actually dealing with a business's IT system, which is not good to be doing that. So yeah, the Atkins one was successful, but actually realistically it wasn't. And the celebrity shakes one was a total failure for me.
And then exercise wise, you mentioned obviously running there. Have you done much in the way of sort of gyms and that type of
Yeah,
exercise?
I've never really joined a gym properly. I had a membership at the Mac Leisure Centre for a period of time. I was going with a couple of mates. Probably like most people, you sign up to this thing. You do you do your induction. You don't take any sort of instruction off anybody from that point forwards, and you just kind of turn up, maybe go on the bike for a little bit of time, maybe go on the running machine and do a bit of walking and the rowing machine, and not really actually knowing what you're doing or what you're trying to achieve, but just in having that mindset. Well, I went to the gym, so obviously it was good. My father-in-law, he goes to the gym once or twice a week, something like that, with one of his friends. And I make a joke of it, really. He just goes there to have a chat with his mates. He comes back and he doesn't look like he's done a workout or anything like that. We were due to go on holiday a couple of weeks ago, and he was coming with us, and I said to him, I'll take you to the gym and I'll take you through one of our workouts, and then you know what it's kind of like to do something. But yeah, for me, I joined it and I was just going through the motions of ticking a box to say, yeah, I've been to the gym once a week or whatever, actually not achieving anything whatsoever apart from wasting time when, there could have been better things to do. So
also, that brings you up to the date of seeing our Facebook ads. And I just thought of a bit of a parallel there. There was one I mentioned before, actually, about, to me, Facebook advertising is a little bit like tracking your eating on MyFitnessPal, in that it gives you actual data, actual cold hard information you can go off. So that's really why over the years we've done 90% of our marketing through Facebook. Firstly, it gives us a good return on investment, but more importantly, perhaps than that, is it's trackable. I can see from the data that Facebook provides exactly how many people saw our adverts, how many people clicked on the link, how many of those people then opted into the mailing list. I can see how many of those people then booked the briefing meeting, how many of those people turned up, how many of those people got started. So I can see that return on investment. I can see that for every pound spent on a Facebook ad, that equates to X amount of membership down the line on average. And as long as that number there is bigger than that number there, it's fine. There's no real limit to how much is worth investing in that. Whereas with some of the marketing methods, perhaps it's not quite so trackable. You can send a flyer mail shot out there, and unless someone tells us that they've joined because of that, we don't necessarily know how valuable it's been. So it's that cold hard data, in much the same way as MyFitnessPal is. It gives you actual numbers, actual data that you can work off and know where you're at. So anyway, you booked in for the briefing meeting. You then turned up, walked in the door for the first time. What was that experience like?
Yeah. Probably wind it back a little bit from there. Before the briefing meeting, mother-in-law was going to come as well.
Okay.
Because I was a bit like, I want to go. Do you want to come? Because she was, looking to get, do some fitness and get fit for holidays and stuff like that. And she said, yeah, okay, I'll come down with you. And that to me was like, okay, well, that's cool. A bit of a safety net. I'll know somebody there, at least I can talk to somebody, whatever. And it came to the night, and she decided that she didn't want to go. And I sat at home and I was like, well, that's just giving me the perfect excuse not to go. And I was like, just something inside me though just went, no, just go. It's half an hour to an hour of your life. Listen to what they've got to say. You don't have to sign up to anything. Just walk in the door, listen to it, sit at the back, and and I'll be honest, most intention I was just going to walk out and say, okay, I'll just go and listen to it this time, and then maybe I'll join the next time, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. And I remember turning up, parking in the car park, walking there. Matt was there. Matt was like, just welcomed me. He said, oh, do you want a brew? I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'll have a brew. And it was odd. I was like, this doesn't look or feel like a gym. But okay, fine. So yeah, sat down. Didn't obviously know anybody in the room. There was quite a few people in the room. I'd probably say there was a good, I don't know, maybe 20 odd people in the room at the time. So I was kind of sat at the back. And yeah, just listen to kind of what you guys had to say. Obviously in the back of my mind, I was there thinking, okay, what's kind of the cost? There's got to be a cost somewhere. What that's going to be, and nothing that was said in there put me off. I'll be honest with you. And there's a point in there where you did like an icebreaker thing, and it was like turn to the person next to you, say your name, say kind of why you're here. And I always remember that I didn't do that, because it was the person that was kind of sat next to me was at the other side of the row, and they were kind of talking to somebody else. I was kind of sat there. I was like, okay, well, yeah, whatever. It's I'll just kind of sit here and wait. And then you kind of got into groups as well, I think, towards the end, and kind of wrote on a whiteboard. And I started talking to people, and then that was cool. I was like, yeah, okay. So I thought, well, why not? Let's just sign up and kind of see what happens next.
Was anyone else in particular there that day? I can't remember off the top of my head who else joined that month.
I can't remember. I mean, you know what my memory's like anyway. I genuinely can't remember who was kind of there at the time. I think me and Andy Ritchie got quite friendly. We got quite a bit of a male bonding going on. We had we were always there in the sessions, keeping each other going and stuff. I think he joined maybe a couple of weeks after me, something like that, maybe a month or so.
At the same time, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a similar sort of time. But yeah, no, I can't remember anyone specifically. Apologies if you were in that room.
And then obviously you got started. How did you find that whole experience the first few weeks? Obviously you have coaching day of your first sessions, you have the initial soreness, the initial perhaps a little bit of confusion. How was that whole first few weeks?
Yeah, I'd say, well, I always remember the first session. It was Andy Gregory took the first one. Yeah. And obviously the first ones are, like the coaching day type sessions anyway, so they were not like the true sort of session, but I turned up in all the gear ready to go, which I had to buy, obviously, because I didn't have anything. And I remember Andy trying to get me to do squats, and I think I managed 3 half decent squats that he was happy with me doing. And then it came to doing press ups, and again, even off the knees, I think I struggled maybe to do 1 or 2 proper down, chest down type press ups. And just even after that coaching day style session, I walked out and I was absolutely drained. I was shocked. I was like, well, if the normal sessions are a level above this, I then started to think, well, am I actually going to be able to do this? Because I didn't actually notice anybody of my size that was in the coaching day thing, or actually even in the welcome meeting. Not that would have actually put me off anyway, but from a fitness perspective, I was a bit like, okay, I don't want to be the kind of the slowest person in the group. And then it came to the kind of the proper sessions, and yeah, they were a shock to the system. That first week, the pain, the leg pain was probably the worst. Waking up in the morning, literally not being able to get out of bed. But part of me was a bit like, well, that's good. That's kind of progress. So that's showing some things. I've not injured myself clearly, because nothing popped or went ping while I was doing it. This is that morning after thing. And yeah, that, for the first few weeks, that was the same thing. I think I started off doing 2 or 3 sessions a week. Obviously, I was on the challenge as well, trying to get control of the diet. I'd say the first sort of half of that 8-week challenge was really good for me. That's probably when most of the weight sort of came off for me. And the sessions, I was doing kind of more on there, but I think I was doing about 3 sessions a week still at that point. So yeah.
Do you know why you were so sore those first few sessions?
It's the dreaded DOMs, isn't it?
Well, it's because you're a man. You didn't listen. We said we always advise go at 30 to 40% for the first few sessions, and women probably don't. To be honest, women probably go at 60%. Most men look round, see someone else who may be vaguely similar size, shape, etc., doing something, and think, "Oh, I can do that," or think, "Oh, I should do this amount of it and all that," and maybe go at 80%, which obviously leaves you very sore, particularly in those first few weeks.
Yeah.
Lesson learned. So you said the first 4 weeks particularly were perhaps where you made most of your progress. What changes did you make in that time frame in your eating?
Again, similar to Lee, it was all the jerf stuff at the time. That to me resonated really well. We started to eat a lot cleaner. Lot of sort of eggs, lot of sort of chicken, steaks, that kind of thing. Sweet potato, a lot more vegetables than kind of what we'd normally used to. I'd say one of the biggest things was sugar. After I think I watched one of Matt's videos on what sugar actually does to you. Watching that, the first 2 weeks coming off sugar was horrific. I mean, at the time, I was obviously still working in IT. Having 6, 7, 8 coffees a day, all of them with at least 2 sugars in them. That was the kind of standard go-to. So coming away from that was the first 2 weeks was horrific. I'd kind of liken it a little bit to what you felt when you were doing the Atkins diet. If I'm honest, it was similar sorts of feelings, but once you got past that 2 weeks, it was fine. The water consumption, that was a big thing for me. Water. I'd never really focused on drinking water at all whatsoever. But yeah, now it's just the normal thing. It's the normal go-to now for me. Before it was Coke and lemonade and all the sweet stuff. But yeah, drinking more and more water was a big thing for me in that kind of first 8 weeks, definitely.
I think the word you use there that really hit the nail on the head is adjustment. Because I think for a lot of people it is an adjustment, but actually once they've made that adjustment, they don't find it necessarily any harder or potentially actually easier in some respects.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy as a coach to forget that as well, because some of those things like I've drank, to be honest, water, I think I always drank a lot of water. Even as a kid, I always drank a lot of water. But I probably drank the volume of water I drink now on an average day for the best part of 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it is easy to forget that there's an adjustment there. But you made those adjustments. You said particularly those first 4 weeks, the progress came relatively quickly. Do you remember at the 4-week mark how much weight you'd lost or any other changes that you noticed?
No, I do know I'm sure I was above where I needed to be in terms of being on track for the 20-pound challenge, which is kind of a blessing and a curse for me, because that kind of demon was kind of there again for me. And I openly admit this. I've said it in welcome meetings that I've done for you in the past, that I didn't actually pass the 20-pound challenge within the 8 weeks, and I'm glad that I didn't, which sounds really odd and probably sounds really odd to a lot of people, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't pass it, because I'd have known what I'd have done. I'd have gone, okay, I've done that 20 pounds, that's great, that didn't cost me anything, done that 8 weeks, let's move on to the next thing. But I think sort of 6 weeks into it, I kind of had that realization where I thought, hang on a minute, I'm probably not going to hit this. I've kind of let things slip a little bit. I'd been out a couple of times, a few beers, things like that. Things had started to slip back within that time period. And I think I did, I don't know, you probably got it on record. I think I got to 17, 18 pounds. I think I lost or something like that.
17, something off the top of my head, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, having been ahead of schedule at week 4 to get into week 6, thinking that you're not going to get there, you mentioned there letting a few things slip, but there must have been a reasonable difference between weeks 1 to 4 and then weeks 5 and 6. You mentioned a few beers. What else would you say, as you termed it, slip back?
There's probably maybe a couple more cheap meals than maybe I should have done. Maybe there's a couple of Chineses in there that maybe shouldn't have happened at the time. And maybe there was a little bit of complacency that had kind of slipped in when really that focus should have maintained. So yeah, it was just that, and I don't think it was a point of the training things were still going well. 6 weeks into it, I'd probably started to go to more sort of 4 sessions a week, something like that. And I think because I was in my own mind, I was on that path anyway. That if I carried on doing what I was doing, then I'd just about hit that kind of mark. But no, unfortunately, I didn't do it. And like I say, I'll always say I'm glad that I didn't, because what it did make me do, it gave me another wake up call to go, hang on a minute, you've just spent all that time getting to where you've got to, just to kind of throw it away in that last bit. That's not cool. So I think I hit it like a couple of weeks later or something like that. I got to where that £20 was. And yeah, that's just that one thing, I think, for me made me stay. It was like, okay, actually, do you know what everybody was saying was right. I got complacent, didn't hit the challenge when I should have hit the challenge, and that's on me. That's nothing that anybody's not told me or instructed me to do. I've done that. So yeah, it was a good thing.
Cool. So that's good that worked for you. But it could have gone either way, that, because we do get people who perhaps don't quite make the £20. And whilst we very much put it across, this is the first 8 weeks of the rest of your life, and it's not just about the £20, not just about the 8 weeks. For some people, that perceived failure may cause them to stop completely, but for you, it almost did the exact opposite. You partly answered this in relation to sort of your mindset with these things, but why would you say it made you interpret it that way as opposed to the opposite?
I think probably, I mean, to kind of put it in a way of saying what made me carry on more so was, I'd say it was the kind of the people that I'd met there, and kind of the friendships that I'd formed. Like I mentioned before, in the early days, Andy Ritchie was there, and he was, I wouldn't say he was unfit. Obviously, he wanted to be at the academy, he wanted to lose the weight, blah blah blah. But we both kind of spurred each other on. So we'd be texting each other the night before or texting each other in the morning, and abusing each other
I can imagine.
When one of us doesn't turn up. And actually, when we were doing the sessions, we both kind of made them more enjoyable for each other. We'd have a laugh, and actually we'd have, the room as well. The room would be involved in that sort of stuff as well. And it kind of got to the point where I thought, this is more than just turning up to do exercise. There's more to this. And that kind of just spurring each other on, and actually looking forward to going and enjoying it, and having a laugh while you're doing it. It was brilliant. There was some good times.
So you mentioned there, you and Andy sending each other a bit of abuse if you didn't turn up. Did you not send each other abuse when you did turn up as well?
Yeah, always. There's always abuse.
Just abuse. I was going to say, it's not related to attendance or non-attendance. It's just abuse.
He had a very interesting selection of trainers that always got a lot of abuse as well. So that was always fun.
How many pairs of trainers did you have?
It's several, actually. Yeah, of varying different colours. I'm sure he just used to buy them just to give me a laugh, really.
Probably.
Yeah. So
I generally have one pair of trainers kind of on the go, so to speak, in terms of like exercisey trainers. And by the time I've finished them off, I'll get a next pair. I don't think there's generally ever been much of an overlap on that. But
no, it's probably a good job that Jenny's can't, or she might comment actually. The amount of trainers that I actually own, it's actually quite ludicrous. So yeah, there's always a new pair turning up at some point.
I once watched. It was one of the. She was the general manager at the Fitness First in Sheffield that I went on to become general manager of, actually, a couple of years later. So she was a general manager. I was a personal trainer there, and her and her husband appeared on a program called 5 Things I Hate About You, where you had to try and catch your partner out doing one of these 5 things that you specified. And one of the things that she hated about him, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but it was just a thing that he did, was he collected the same trainer, just different variations of it. So it wasn't the Reebok Classic, but let's say something like that. And she went around the house, opening cupboards, looking under the bed, and he had something like 112 different pairs of this same trainer, just all the different versions they'd ever released, all in the boxes. He never wore any of them. He just collected them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not quite that bad.
Each to their own.
I do struggle to throw away trainers though. That is a problem.
But the advantage I've got, and I say it's an advantage, it's not good really. I've got slightly flattened feet; they're not quite level, so that my trainer always wears away in exactly the same spot. It's a different spot on both feet, but same basic area consistently. So it gets to the point where actually it's kind of worn through then, and they're kind of not unusable. And to be honest, I do often save old pairs for, say, doing a Born Survivor or if I'm painting or something like that. But at that point, they get replaced as the main trainer. So that's your first few months, and then obviously an early thing there I mentioned earlier was, as Lee did and as a number of people did, you did Born Survivor very early in your academy journey. You'd been a member at that point for how many weeks?
I can't remember. Was it 6 weeks? Something like that.
I can't remember the date. I'm assuming you must have started at the start of April. Born Survivor generally is the second weekend in May. Sometimes the first, so it's something like 5 or 6 weeks. I think. I'd have to double check. But how did you find that?
This is gonna sound really bad. It's horrific, and I know a load of people will say they enjoy it, they think it's the best thing ever, and they look forward to doing it. I don't. I genuinely don't. I think the thing I look forward to the most is finishing it. Because, and that's a good thing, because actually the feeling that you get when you do that blitz and you get to the top, and I always remember that moment of kind of us reenacting the moment with the kind of the hand grip. What's the film? Forget the film.
Predator.
No, Predator. Yeah.
Arnie and Carl Weathers.
Yep. Of you dragging me over the top of the blitz, that then, and climbing down the other side of that, apart from getting cramp when you get to the bottom, but apart from that, the feeling of just completing that is unbelievable. But all the way around, the first time round that I did it was kind of a bit more exciting, I would say. So I was okay with it. I ended up with a group of people from the academy. We were having a laugh as we were going around, and actually it was okay, to be honest. But some of the obstacles are pretty tough. I do tend to avoid the under the tire one. That to me just completely puts me out. I don't think I've ever had claustrophobia, but the thought of that just completely puts me off. So that's probably the only one I do skip. But yeah, other than that, it is pretty horrific. But but like I say, the finishing of it makes it so much worthwhile, and that's the only reason I signed up to do it again, and the only reason I did it again in 2017.
Second one,
17, yeah. I wanted that feeling again. But I also convinced two of my mates who were non-academy members to kind of join me as well. Andy did it as well. Andy Ritchie did that one. So it was me, Andy Ritchie, and two of my mates did it, which was quite entertaining because one of them was struggling a bit because he put running trainers on for the road, which just, pointless. You just slip and slide everywhere. So that was quite funny. So it's that feeling at the end for me. And that's what I'd pay for, and that's what I'd absolutely do it again. But if anybody asked me, did you enjoy it? No, because it's cold, it's wet, it hurts. It's a struggle, but it's worth it.
And that's understandable. I think even those that have said that they've loved it haven't necessarily loved the actual, almost the doing of it. It's the sort of thing that you'd never do it by yourself. If you did do it by yourself, it would be awful. You wouldn't enjoy it in the slightest. You enjoy the fact that you've been able to do it, that it's a representation perhaps of how far you've come over the last however many weeks, months and years to be able to do something like that, of the position you got yourself in to do it, of the teamwork and all that sort of side of it. That's it really. The actual doing of the event isn't necessarily all that enjoyable, but
no, I'd say definitely the second time around definitely felt different. From a fitness perspective, just from a body strength side of things.
We've been a member 10 times as long at that point.
Exactly, yeah. So it was definitely noticeable at that point. Just the running aspect of it. I mean, I'd done a bit of running as well in kind of the lead up to the second time around. But obviously the strength side of things, being able to pull your own body weight over things and stuff like that, felt a lot easier than what it did that kind of first time around. So yeah, that was good. I know, and again, I was looking forward to doing it again to see, because obviously we've been doing quite a lot of kind of strength training in the past sort of 12 months, and I was interested to see what that was going to look like this time around. But obviously, unfortunately, we couldn't do it.
To me, that again, that's quite a nice a representation of the progress that you've made. So whilst being able to lift dumbbells up and down is great, and getting them progressively heavier is brilliant, pulling yourself over things, lifting yourself over stuff, that almost more primal representation of an increase in strength, I find more rewarding. You know, finding that your body is now capable of doing certain things it wasn't capable of doing before, to me at least, and for many people I know, is more powerful and more motivating than just being able to lift a dumbbell in the same way, but just a bit heavier than it used to be.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, a couple of examples of that. I do like to think I can do a bit of DIY now and again. And I do cut the grass every now and again and stuff like that. And if I think back to the times when I was a lot bigger and a lot more unfit, those tasks I'd struggle to do. I'd struggle to cut the grass. I'd struggle to do that sort of stuff. And even today, we've been wanting to change the flooring in the hallway. And I thought, now's the day that I'm going to rip up the flooring. Probably a bit premature, knowing that I can't actually lay the new flooring because I've no idea what I'm doing and I can't pay somebody to come and do it. So probably a bit of a mistake, but I started it anyway. And I think what I realised while I was doing that is that, I was lifting up wood that was probably, the wood was really sort of thick, good 3-4 centimetre thick blocks of wood. And I was just ripping it up, just tearing it up, breaking it, and just doing it. And I thought to myself that felt good, that like having to have that strength to be able to do that, and then not feel completely shattered at the end of it. It was a good feeling. Carried all the wood outside, and still felt perfectly fine. Knowing that probably if I'd have tried to do that 3-4 years ago, well, I wouldn't have done it. But that'd have been simple. I just wouldn't have done it. So, yeah. It's good.
Have you noticed those changes in any other aspects? So, for example, obviously being a father there to Maisie, do you notice any difference in the way you're able to keep up with her, do stuff with her?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, she's quite active anyway. She does a lot of cheerleading, a lot of trampolining and things like that. We've started to do a bit more sort of bike rides and stuff like that. We went swimming, started to go swimming every Saturday right up until the point of kind of lockdown. So she's not into football and running around fields and stuff like that. But just doing a TikTok videos and lifting her in the air and stuff like that. It's kind of a little bit of a workout for me as well, I suppose, when she wants me to do all these weird and wonderful things with her. And there's been many a time where we've been practicing her routine for cheerleading, and I'm playing a bass. You'll know what a bass is, I'm sure most people do, but I'll play the bass and she'll do the cheerleading and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been good to be able to kind of do that and not go, no, Maisie, I can't do it. Obviously, there's sometimes where I go, well, my back's killing me or whatever. But yeah, generally on the whole, it's. But I think the thing for me though, I've never let that be an issue. I've never let that stop me anyway, to be honest, but it is just easier, I'm sure.
I've been getting more into TikTok recently. So Izzy, my stepdaughter, is the same age as Maisie, Jamie's daughter, same school year. And we joke sometimes about TikTok having the past. And the first however many times I saw TikTok, it seemed pretty rubbish to me. I get ads in my Facebook feed for TikTok that are supposedly funny videos where I'm like, I don't actually get what the joke is there. It's not even like I get it and don't think it's funny. I don't see why anyone would find that funny. And Ollie, my eldest son, sends me funny videos on TikTok that I'm much the same with. I'm like, I don't get it. Whereas Izzy is very much into people putting videos on of them doing some sort of skill. So it might be a trampoline, and she's recently got into a lot of paint ones, which are really interesting. She was showing me one earlier of this guy suspended these different paint cans by presumably a string from the ceiling. And also suspended below that was the canvas. And he set the canvas going in one sort of circle and the paint tins all going in different directions, leaking onto it. And it made the most amazing, beautiful pattern. And I thought that's fantastic. That's really interesting. That's someone who's got a skill, who's doing something and finding a platform to share it with the world. So I'm getting more into TikTok now than I used to be. TikTok dances as well. They're quite good fun.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I've not done any of Bernie's workouts with Zoom, so she's not seen me dancing in my conservatory. But it's pretty horrific. I'm sure
that's terrible. My Izzy, she's a really good dancer in a way that I never will be. I'll give it a go, but I just can't move my body in that way. And she's constantly like, "No, move your hips, move your hips." And I'm trying to move my hips. It's not that I don't get it. I know what you're saying. I can see their hips are moving. I can see how your hips are moving. I'm trying to move my hips in the same way. it just
They
just don't do that. There's lots of other cool stuff my body can do, but dance related things isn't one of them.
No, Maisie's the same. Maisie can dance. I mean, Jenny can as well. She'll kill me for telling you that, but yeah, she's got tons and tons of trophies from when she used to do dancing in the early years. But yeah, no, I can't, definitely, unless I've had 6 or 7 pints, and then absolutely I am the best dancer.
Presumably at that point your dancing is no better than normal, possibly worse. It's just your interpretation of it has changed.
No, not at all.
Cool. So obviously that's a couple of things I mentioned there, but we've got 4 years of academy membership there. What other bits have been particular highlights for you?
Particular highlights. One of the big ones that probably sticks out is the bootcamp fitness thing. I think I'd mentioned it to you a couple of times about, looking at what could be the next stage, maybe look into coaching at some point, or being some kind of substitute coach. Obviously I've got quite a hectic, busy job, but obviously, I'm always kind of wanting to kind of help out. I think one of the first things you talked to me about was doing the bootcamp fitness session, which I did. And yeah, that was a tough day. That is, if anybody wants to have a really grueling day of working out, that is it. That is really tough. But yeah, I went through that. It kind of opened my eyes to kind of what coaching could be. Faye was there as well. She was doing a refresher course, which was cool because she kind of helped me out through some of those bits and pieces in there. And Claire was doing it as well at the same time. I've not progressed that yet. So my plan was to kind of pick that up this year and do the kind of the level 2 piece, which would then get me to that kind of qualified state. So that is 100% on the cards. So I'm still going to progress that and do that once all of this is kind of passed over. And yeah, that was good. Probably some of the other things, just, in terms of doing PBs and kind of weightlifting and that side of things, obviously, as I mentioned before, that probably the last 6 to 12 months, in fact, probably prior to doing that, I was, I'd hit a plateau, as everybody does. I'd hit the point where I was doing the 5 sessions a week. My diet wasn't particularly great, but it wasn't particularly bad either. And I was definitely plateauing at that point, and I'd probably plateau for a good 3 or 4 months, something like that, maybe even longer actually. The weight was kind of dipping and going up a little bit and dipping and just not really going where I needed it to be. And I noticed that you and Lee were doing more and more sessions in the morning in kind of the weights room. It's always been something that had interested me, was to kind of get in there, but I was always a little bit apprehensive about doing that. I think you offered a kind of like a 1-to-1 session for kind of members, just 15-20 minutes of do whatever you want to do type of thing. And I said to you, can we just do something in the weights room for something? So I did that with you and just learn how to use the rack, learn how to do kind of bench press and stuff like that. And then I had a couple of sessions with Matt as well on that, about squats and deadlifts, about how to do it safely and how to set things up. And I never really did any more than that. I was like, okay, I kind of interested in doing more of that, but I'll just carry on doing some more sessions and maybe I'll do something in there. Then I started doing Saturdays, I think, on my own, where I just set up my own little thing and I was just doing the 3 or 4 main lifts. And again, not really kind of pushing myself to do that. So again, the plateauing wasn't being affected there. And like I say, then I noticed you and kind of Lee doing the 6 a.m. sessions in the weights room. And eventually you kind of convinced me to come in there for a couple of sessions, and then that kind of switched, much to the disgust of most of the 6 a.m.ers, and I apologize, sorry. But at that point I kind of made that switch to doing pretty much full time in that weights room, and then that became the new banter, if you like, the thing that kind of kept you going. So between me, you and kind of Lee there, those 6 a.m. sessions became the norm. And I think, lifting some of the weights that we were lifting in there, all kind of helping each other out and kind of doing that. And then we tried to do that challenge, the million kilos?
Million kilo lift.
Million kilo lift. And I think we got to 600-700 kilos, something like that.
I blame Lee having Lucy there. That's what derailed it.
Yeah, that derailed it. You disappeared.
It's like 3 days from the end of the month, we were a couple of 100,000 behind, but that's probably what ruined it.
Yeah, you disappeared for a bit as well. I think you had something with your elbow or something again. I don't know.
I did, didn't I? Was it my elbow?
Yeah, I was the only one there every day trying to.
You were the backbone of that challenge, weren't you?
I was. I thought that. But yeah,
I don't think I disappeared with my elbow. I think I kept coming in, but I was limited as to what I could do. I don't think I missed a workout, did I?
It was a couple of times, I think. Yeah.
Okay. I was there in spirit, at least.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, doing that, and then I think building up to kind of the deadlifts that we were doing. I think I'm at about 136, 138, something like that now, which considering I was happy when I was doing 100, it's a good thing, and I enjoy that now. That is one of my biggest drivers now, is to kind of keep pushing those numbers up as much as I can. And yeah, there was since doing that, there's definite improvement from a fitness perspective. Definitely built muscle since then. I'm less concerned, I would say, probably with overall weight, if I'm honest, and that is what it is. I know that I've got a lot of weight that I could still lose, but it no longer kind of bothers me. I know it's there, and I know I need to do more, and I know what I need to do. And it's interesting what you've been saying in a lot of the kind of the videos and kind of the messaging that you've been putting out there, of people saying, I know what I need to do, I just need to do it. Because I say that a hell of a lot, and I genuinely do. I've read a lot of stuff, I've listened to a lot of books, I know the science behind everything, the whole tracking thing, calorie deficit. I like to think I know most things about it. There's probably a hell of a lot more I can learn. And yeah, it is that old adage, it's knowing what you need to do, but actually then just putting that into action and doing it. I think I know when I do slip up now and again, and it does happen, particularly at the minute, that I would honestly say that the drinking has increased during this lockdown period, but not to any excess whatsoever. I mean, I'm literally talking maybe 1 or 2 beers a week, and maybe at the weekends I might have a couple of beers and maybe 2 or 3 gins or something like over the whole period of the weekend. So it's not like I'm getting smashed every night or anything like that, but it's a marked increase over what I'm kind of used to. But offsetting that with the fact that I've committed to do at least 3 runs a week, and I want to make sure that I'm hitting over 10K's worth of runs every week, to the point where I'll run a 10K again. I have done a 10K, but I want to get to that point again. So again, it's that deficit thing, isn't it? It's like, yes, I'm drinking a bit more, I'm going to blend it out, I'm going to eat a little bit better during the week, and I genuinely eat better, a lot better actually. Since the lockdown, I'd say my diet's probably a lot better while I'm at home. When I'm in the office, there's a kind of a restaurant cafe thing on the Science Park, sells burritos, sells all sorts of stuff that really is okay, but it's massively high in calories. I drink a lot more coffee while I'm in the office, so actually there are some positives to kind of working from home permanently at the minute, so which is good.
I think that's a similar story to what most people are telling me, and actually I've found myself in some parts of that, is that lockdown for many people, not everyone obviously, has meant that they're eating better, as you might call it, on their normal meals. So their main meals, particularly perhaps their evening meal, is perhaps on average more fresh food, more veg, more lean meat, etc., than it may have been before. But also at the same time, most people are drinking more. I did put a post in the group on, I think it was Friday morning, about drinking, encouraging people to reach out to me, and that's instigated some really great conversations from some people about the situation they're currently in, or the situation perhaps they've been in for years or decades, which hopefully the continuation of those conversations is going to help them make some progress on that. And a lot of people are finding snacking as well even more of an issue than normal, because I think when you're in the house all day, every day, and there's food there, it's a lot more tempting perhaps than it would be on a normal day. So hopefully people are managing to find some sort of balance of that between eating better at meal times and finding some degree of perhaps damage limitation on the drinking and the snacking, and perhaps offsetting like that, like you have there with some of the exercise options. I think the key message I really try to get across as well is that everyone's lockdown is going to be different. So for some people, based on what's going on in their lives, it might actually be the best period they've ever had. I know some people are setting personal bests in running now. Their eating's never been as good. They've never had more time to to focus on their nutrition. For some people, it's a really, really hard time, and they're doing their best to maybe at best stand still, to float where perhaps they would have sunk like a stone under other circumstances. I think that's the key really, is to make it not the best it can be under the circumstances, but better than it could have been otherwise. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think
you mentioned there obviously about plateauing and a bit of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, exercise wise over the last 4 years, and you've mentioned in particular parts there what your eating was like. What would you say, was there much of a pattern in terms of changing to the eating over the years, in terms of maybe again getting complacent, maybe plateauing, maybe getting better and worse, or was that a bit more consistent?
I'd say the eating side of things, the biggest thing for me is the education and the awareness of kind of what I'm eating. I used to think nothing of just eating what I wanted when I wanted. I don't. Now I won't restrict myself. So if I do want to have something, then I will have it. But I'll know what I'm doing. It's a case of, I'll know that I'm making. If we go to a Nando's, let's say, I'll try and make sure that I'll choose something that's a slightly better option most of the time. But some of the time I will have the peri peri chips because they are amazing. It's simple as that. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it, but I think I'm aware of what I'm doing. It is kind of the biggest thing for me. And knowing that, just because I've had that Nando's at lunch, then that doesn't then mean that, well, don't write off the rest of the day or the rest of the week. It's like, okay, you've done that, that's fine, but make sure you've recorded it, and then you'll know that when you come to the end of the day, and I do it, sometimes when I'm laying in bed at night and I look at my phone and go, oh, okay, I'm, 200 calories over where I needed to be, and it's only Tuesday, fine, that's a good thing, because I've got time there to kind of bring that back over the 7 days. And then it's, not feeling guilty about it, because I think if you feel guilty about it, you then feel negative anyway, and you feel negative, and it's like, well, I'll just have a beer then, stuff it. It's like, whatever, day's gone anyway. So, and it's making sure you recognize that if you do make those choices, fine, just make sure you do something about it, own the fact that you've made that decision to eat whatever you've eaten. I've got a massive sweet tooth. Some people may have seen what I posted on Facebook a few weeks ago, which was, I forget what they're called now. It's basically a pick and mix bag. I love sweet stuff like that, and Maisie doesn't tend to eat a lot of it. Jenny doesn't tend to eat a lot of it, and they, for £15 you can have a kilo of pick and mix. And yes, it's the sugar. Yes, it's all the bad stuff. But I just limit it. It's as simple as that. It's stuff. Every now and again I'll just have something, and just that kind of just spurs you on again, I suppose, at that point.
That's fine. If you make the average work, and you hit the nail on the head there, actually one of the things you said there, and that's very much the way I choose to see tracking my food, hopefully a mindset I can get people towards, is that I think people start with the idea of tracking their food to be restrictive, to take the enjoyment, to take the fun out of eating. I actually think, if anything, it makes it just fun. It means that you don't have to feel guilty. You can just enjoy it. You can just take pleasure from it, because you can average it out elsewhere. Whereas without that knowledge, without that data there, those cold hard facts, it's tempting to beat yourself up, to think, like you said before, you need to write it off, to think that you've failed, etc., which to me is less enjoyable, because the actual physical sensation is going to be the same either way. The change in enjoyment level is only then really in what's going on in our head before, during, and after. And if what's going on in our head before, during, and after can be, I'm just going to enjoy this because I know I can make it work, that makes it more enjoyable. That's my way of seeing it anyway. So that pretty much brings us up to date. Obviously, we've been in lockdown now for, what are we on now, 7 weeks?
7 weeks now, yeah.
And you've been doing a lot more running during lockdown. How's that been going?
Yeah, good. Again, it's one of those things I absolutely hate doing, but again, it's that feeling of when I run back onto our estate, it's that feeling of elation of going, right, okay, let's look at the data. I'm a massive freak when it comes to looking at data, so I can't wait to get it uploaded to Strava, look at what my analysis is and the gaps and stuff like that. So I love doing stuff like that. I've continued with 6 a.m. So I've attended pretty much all the 6 a.m. sessions, maybe one or two that I've kind of missed, but my routine is key for me. So making sure I'm sticking to some form of routine. So that for me looks like 6 a.m. session, whatever that session is, and then the 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's when I'll do a run. Monday being a bit of a, maybe 2 or 3K. Then I'll try for a bit more of a distance run on a Wednesday, and then just a bit, maybe a 2 or 3K on a Friday. That I have to have that routine. I'll get back, I make my coffee at the same time, go and have a shower at the same time. I'm on calls with work from sort of 8:15 in the morning. And that's a bit tough, the constant being on the phone and doing on Teams calls all day is exhausting. And I spoke to a guy about it actually. He's a coach, Rick Moylan. So I was talking to him last week, and he was explaining to me about, he'd read an article about why people get so tired doing calls and doing Teams and stuff like that. And it's to do with your brain goes into overdrive when you're on a video call, because it's constantly trying to, when you're in a meeting, if we were face to face now, I'd be able to easily judge your kind of facial expressions and body language, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot more difficult on a video. So your brain kind of goes into overdrive trying to work out what everybody's thinking, what everybody's feeling, that kind of thing. So when you're on a multiple conference call, your brain's doing that constantly, and that's the bit that kind of exhausts you. So I'm getting to 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm just completely drained, and it's because of that mainly. So it's about making sure you're taking the breaks, don't do back-to-back calls, which is what I have been doing a lot of recently. Make sure you've got that break, make sure you stand up, plenty of water, all that sort of stuff, all those kind of things.
Maybe that's a good point there as well, that I find is a useful change in mindset that people often have when they go on to success is the value of at least some degree of routine. Because again, I know people often initially find the concept of routine and structure and things being at set times and planning to be a bit boring, a bit restrictive. They maybe feel it takes all the fun out of things. And again, to me, it puts the fun in perhaps elsewhere. By having that routine and structure, you get done the stuff that kind of just needs to get done. It gets done as easily and as quickly as possible, and you get the results from it. And then you've then got an amount of time or money or mental focus left over for the other stuff. So it's not about every single aspect of your life being absolutely dialed down, but it's about perhaps getting certain things in place, things that perhaps otherwise you just try and fit in and therefore don't get fitted in. Perhaps a little bit more planned, structured, scheduled, do get done. And then you've got the rest of the 168 hours for something a bit more flexible, shall we say?
Yeah. I agree with that. There's past 9 a.m. most days, there's no structure to what I do, whether it's in the week or at weekend, but 100% that 6 a.m. it has to happen. The thought of not doing a workout at 6 a.m. to me is just completely alien now. It's one of the first things I think about is, when we were going to go on holiday, we were meant to be staying in a villa in Orlando, and I made sure that where we were staying, there was either a gym on site or within somewhere, or at least something that I could do, whether it's a run around the complex or whatever. And yeah, that's more of that, not more important, but it's massively important to me, because I've got to, even if it was over there, I'd still be doing 6 a.m. on holiday.
Were you supposed to be having a holiday in Orlando that you couldn't get to? You've not mentioned that.
Have I not mentioned it? No.
I wasn't aware.
No, I'm still not had my money back either, which is the sickening thing about it.
So as a fundamental thing, I think from what you said there, and from obviously knowing your story, it's clear that whilst you've still got a direction you're moving in and not quite where you want to be, overall, being at the academy has been forward progress. It's been the thing that's worked for you, whereas things perhaps in the past haven't.
Oh, massively.
What would you say has been the difference? Why has this worked for you, whereas things haven't before?
It's the people, 100% the people. It's the coaches. I'm not going to say it's you, because you don't need to hear that. It's the people, definitely. It's the other members, all of a similar mindset. The coaches, coaching staff, can't fault any of them whatsoever. The kind of the consistent messaging that we get, it's just, yeah, I couldn't think of what life would be like if it didn't exist. The thought of going to a Globo gym type thing now would just be, I wouldn't do it. as simple as that. I'd do the same thing. I'd sign up and maybe go once or twice. But the thing for me that gets me up at 6 a.m. every morning, it is the people, and it's doing that. That is the key thing.
It'd be interesting to see when we return to normal, whatever that looks like after lockdown, what happens to what you might call your Globo gyms. From what I'm reading there, the mid-level ones are probably the ones that are going to be hit the hardest. And I think they have actually really over the last 10 years or so anyway, people generally either want to go as cheap as humanly possible, and therefore you don't get as much for it, but that's fine, that's what they accept. Or people are willing to pay a bit more for a bit more support and systems and structure and service and coaching or whatever it is. But those gyms that are, say, £35 to £45 a month, it'll be interesting to see if this is perhaps the thing that finishes off that model, perhaps. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you do see. I mean, on the runs that I've been out on, there's a few people out exercising now, and I think people have realised that actually, and I think what hit home when me and Maisie rode through the park. We've done it a couple of times on the weekends. We kind of ride through the park. There is more people out doing something active. I think when it's taken away from you and they kind of say to you, okay, but you can go and do an hour's worth of exercise, I think people, I'll go and do my hour's worth of exercise, when actually they probably never did that before, but because they've been told there's an opportunity that you can go and do something, I think people are taking it. And whether most people are just going for a walk, actually people are probably more active at the minute than maybe they have been ever. People are actually getting out there because they need to get out, they want to get out for their own sanity. So I think people are forcing themselves out, and like I say, when I've been out for runs, there's definitely more people out running, definitely more people out on bikes and things like that. So yeah, like you say, that kind of mid-level gyms that are there that maybe those people would normally have gone to, they'll probably realise actually no, we don't need to be paying £45 a month. I've got a park on my doorstep and I can just go and do something there. So yeah, maybe.
We shall see. Right, so guys watching on Facebook now, I'm just going to go through the comments that we made there so far. If you are watching, you've probably got like an extra couple of minutes until we're completely done. If there's anything else you want to ask Jamie about his experience at the academy, any humorous observations you want to make, like for example, Lee's first comment at the start of the video was, the back of Jamie's chair looks like he has a mullet going on.
Oh, that's my gaming chair, sorry.
Does it do stuff? Does it has it got speakers in the headrest?
No, it's just like a racing car type seat.
Okay. Is it comfy?
No.
Is there any point
after about 2 hours. After about 2 hours, it's quite uncomfortable. But
what's the point in it then?
I don't know. It just looks good. It looks comfy, and it feels comfy when you first sit down in it. But yeah, after a couple of hours, it's lower.
It's a little bit like the Emperor's chair in Star Wars.
It is. Yeah, it's got a little joystick here that I can just do that.
You start your Microsoft Teams calls like at work, facing the opposite way and like turning. Oh, like Mastermind. It's like Mastermind.
Yeah.
Just turn into shot.
It does fully recline as it reclines, and it's got a bit that comes out. So when I'm doing a Teams call, I just have to listen and I kind of fully recline it and do that. So that's quite cool.
Okay. Yeah. Leanne says, hi, Jamie, at the start. Lee says, chicken fried rice with gravy. You think you know someone.
It's actually disgusting. But it is disgusting. But I didn't like curry at the time. And Jenny said it was a good idea. And when we first had it, it was like, wow, this is amazing. We're really onto something. We weren't.
Have you had it recently? Is it still nice?
No, I think the last time we had from Brown Street, it was disgusting. And I'll say that about a lot of the food that we used to eat a lot of. Oh, God. I mean, the thought of even like having sugar in tea and coffee now, it just knocks me sick. It's, the amount of, particularly Brown Street, we used to love that place. But yeah, no, just so salty, so just, disgusting, horrible.
There's a number of things like that. Like when I was a kid, we used to on a Saturday, we'd do the weekly big shop, and we'd usually go to the chip shop in the marketplace in Ashbourne, and I'd usually have either fish and chips or perhaps more often the deep fried battered burger and chips. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was delicious. And I probably haven't had that now for I'll have chip shop fish, that's still all right. But probably the last time I had those type of like deep fried soggy chips was probably about, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years ago. And the last few times I had it, I was like, this is actually foul. I'm not enjoying this in the slightest. And that burger as well, thinking back about that deep fried battered burger, I don't think I could get more than a mouthful or two into it nowadays.
Chippy chips, kind of disagree. I do like chippy chips now and again, but yeah.
If they're really soggy type, if they're a bit firmer, I do like chips, firmer, crisper type chips, soggy, fat-filled ones.
No.
Okay, so on commenting on Jenny's account, Maisie has said, I don't even know what number that is, 100 million pairs?
Trainers,
it's a lot of how many zeros? So let's see, that's thousands, that's millions. 100 million, I was right. Look at that, 100 million pairs, Maisie, and then love you, Daddy. Oh, okay. Talking about your trainers.
I'll let her off.
Lee says, loving this pod, not embarrassed to say that I found a true kindred spirit in Jamie. And the biggest compliment I can pay you, aside from your own achievements, is you make me want to lift more, you make me want to do more reps, and more recently, you make me want to run further and faster. Hashtag RR92 for life. What a beautiful comment. I think he could have finished off by saying, you complete me at the end. That would have done it then.
Yeah, it would have done. Yeah.
Alex, my wife Alex, says I need a chair that reclines and missed the first half but love listening to the rest. Thanks for sharing, Jamie. I believe Alex is upstairs chilling in the bath. She's got Charlie down. We've agreed that after I finish this, we'll have timed it so Charlie's down. She'll have had a bath and we can actually spend some time, just the two of us, which is relatively rare. To say we live together and at the moment I'm going out very, very little. There's very little time in amongst sorting all of the kids out where we have time for just the two of us. So that'll be nice. Guys watching on Facebook, any other comments coming in? I'll just give it a last refresh to see if anyone's mentioned anything. No, that's brought us up to date. Covered any questions
nobody asked comment on the gym bar, actually. If I'm supposed to be not drinking, then I've just realised that you've got full view of my vast array of gin.
So are they all gins, are they?
Yeah.
Even the ones that are like horizontal pointing outwards, are they gin or wine?
No, the few of those are like mixers, and it's all spirits. There's no wine in there, so it's mainly mixers and yeah, various collections of vodka.
Friday night, myself and Alex, my wife, did an NCT, the National Childbirth Trust group that we were part of when Charlie was born. We did a get together on Zoom, like a quiz and just a general chat and catch up. So there's a quiz there to give it a bit of structure, but that's just a bit of fun in amongst it. And one of the rounds that one of the couples had put together was 80s and a lot of them are 90s as well, to be honest, drinks. So there'd be, for example, a bottle of hooch or K, or it wasn't Smirnoff Ice, we got that one wrong, but it was something similar. Smirnoff, the name on the label blurred out. Bacardi Breezer was one of them. That was a really interesting round, brought back a lot of memories. Castaway was one of them, I think.
Did you ever do the Blast Away?
Yeah, that was that with. What was it with? Cider.
It was a Castaway mixed with was it Diamond White? I think Diamond White cider. Yeah,
doesn't sound quite right either, but it was a Castaway mixed with something else, wasn't it?
Yeah, I never did it, obviously.
Obviously not.
No.
Flaming Sambucas, I remember doing them.
Well, I can't.
On like your forehead, stuck to your forehead.
Oh no.
What was the Advocar as well? You could set fire to that and stick it to your body.
Yeah, that sounds a bit posh.
Aftershocks, that was one of them. We got Aftershocks straight away.
Yeah. That was probably one of my claim to fame with me and my mates. We drunk the Millstone Dry one night of Aftershock to the point where the landlord just gave us the rest of the bottle. It was like we just kept going up for shots and he was sick of pouring them, so he just gave us the rest of the bottle. So yeah, that was a long night.
2020 was one in there as well, and it's funny. I first got drunk. I was 13. It was late night shopping in Ashbourne, and I brought a bottle of 2020. God knows how I bought a bottle of 2020 when I was 13 years old. And I drank it all to myself, passed out at my friend's house, and he put me in the recovery position. And amazingly, I think Ollie will be 13, so that's the age he'll be. It was a couple of years off still, but Sam, my nephew, turned 14 a couple of days ago, and he lives in the same house that I used to live in at that point. And I just can't imagine him doing that.
No.
So some of the stuff that I think was not okay, but a bit more commonplace in the early to mid 90s. I think hopefully today's youngsters are a bit more sensible, maybe.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, there's a lot more freedom. So I remember when we were on a bike ride with Maisie at weekend, and I said, You know, when I was her age, 10 years old, I'd get on my bike at, you know, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be gone all day. Mum and dad no idea where I was. But the thought of that with Maisie, no, that's not happening. If she's going out on a bike, she's going out on a bike with me till she's at least 18. So,
I do find myself saying stuff now that makes me feel like an old man. So sort of stuff my dad used to say to me. So my nephew, I mentioned before, he's just turned 14, and he keeps saying about wanting to have some money. So does Ollie, who's 11. And to Sam particularly, Ollie's still a bit young, but Sam, I keep saying, just get a job, get some work. So I can't work. I'm only 13, 14. And I point out that I started working for Grandad, my dad, when I was 12. And I talk about what I used to do work-wise and how I used to go up on the farm and how I used to cycle here and there. And I think this is what my dad used to say to me when I was younger, about how he used to have to walk 5 miles and then get a bus and then a bike and whatever to get to school and back. And I used to roll my eyes when he was telling me that sort of stuff. And I catch myself doing the same to him.
Yep. Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Every generation, I'm sure, do the same.
Yep. Sure they do.
All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for that, Jamie. Gone on for 70 minutes there. Always interesting to hear people's stories. A lot of that I was aware of, a few things in there that I wasn't. Hopefully those people listening to this either live tonight or later on in the actual podcast version of it will have found it useful. I think the overwhelming thing that people get from the podcast is hearing the story of a real life member, because we're more than aware that although we are normal, I use that term loosely, people don't necessarily see us in that way. When you work in fitness, they see, hello, Maisie.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Okay. How many pairs of trainers does Daddy own?
100 million.
100 million. That's a lot. People find it useful to hear that story of a person they may identify with a little bit more, and how they've overcome the challenges, or in fact, perhaps it's not just been straight overcoming of challenges. It's been that 2 step forward, 1 step back, 2 step forward, and how that's absolutely fine. And that's really for the vast majority of the population what success looks like. It's that keeping on going. So hopefully you guys got a lot from that. Thank you for your time, Jamie. Nice to see you as well, Maisie.
Been good. Say bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Awesome. Right. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye.
See you later.